So welcome everyone to our 2022 Student Org Leadership Summit. Like I said, we're so excited to have you here today. My name is Sarah Hyman. I'm the Assistant Director in our Center for Student Involvement, and I do leadership programs like this event and other workshops throughout the year to help you as students be successful and to help your student organizations be successful. So if you're involved in any organizations, we have support and resources for you as well. So our office teamed up with HandsOn K-State, with Mortar Board, with Housing and Dining Services to put together this virtual event series for you today. So we have a few different workshops happening on this Saturday. Earlier this morning, we did one for emerging leaders. And of course, this is our advanced leaders session here. And then at 1 o'clock this afternoon, we're doing a workshop on community service. So if you have the ability to hang around and stick around for that workshop, that would be great as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link in the chat for you all to use to get signed in today, because we'd love to know who's here and that you're joining us. So if you didn't scan that QR code on your screen, that's fine. You can just use this link in the chat. Either one works, but if you wouldn't mind checking in. So like I said, we know who all joined us today, and we can follow up with you if needed after our presentations later on. But in this advanced workshop, or excuse me, in this advanced leaders workshop today, we're going to talk about teamwork, about leveraging your involvement in a job search, and about strengths. So we've got a few different guest speakers to chat with you all today. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and kick things over to our first guest speaker. Kevin Santos Flores is here with us. He's our Director of Diversity and Multicultural Student Life. And so, Kevin, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and you are welcome to take over for the next 20 or 30 minutes.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah, for the introduction. And good morning, everyone. Good to see everyone. And let me share my screen, and that way we can start the presentation. So give me. All right. Oops. All right. Everyone can see my screen? Yeah? Okay, cool. So the purpose of this workshop is to show how your experience in student organizations, and some of you might be already aware of this, but will help you and prepare you that once you graduate and having worked with people from different backgrounds and better understand, hopefully, too, why people behave the way they do in college, and also when you graduate, when you're working with different colleagues and your supervisors. So if you have questions, I'll give time at the end. Feel free to ask me any questions that you may have. So my role here at campus is advising 5 student organizations, which are the African Student Union, Asian American Student Union, Black Student Union, and the Hispanic American Leadership Organization, and the Native American Student Body. And the other primary duties I have is managing the Morris Family Multicultural Student Center. So I help our 40+ multicultural student organizations in managing and reserving the space. And quick background about me, so you better know me and where I came from and how I got here to Kansas. I was born in El Salvador, my family and I came to Southern California when I was 2 years old, and I was raised there most of my life. And I grew up in a city called Placencia, which is basically 5 minutes away from Disneyland. And then from there, I was also a first-generation college student, and I attended my local community college. I received my AA from there, then transferred to Cal State Fullerton. And I graduated in political science and Latin American studies, so I was a double major. And it took me a little bit longer, but it was definitely worth it to graduate. And then from there, I was able to receive a scholarship and attend Ohio University, not the Ohio State, even though our school was the first school in Ohio, and the Bobcats. And I was there for almost 2 years, a little bit less. And actually, quick note, side note, I know for the Super Bowl tomorrow, Joe Burrow's family, his dad used to coach football there at Ohio U. So even though I'm rooting for the Rams, I feel it's a win-win. So shout out to both teams tomorrow. And once graduating, so my intentions, what I wanted to be was a political science professor, but the PhD process is very competitive. So when I was not able to get into a PhD program in the first round, I applied for jobs, and the first place I worked at was at Humboldt. It's now called Cal Poly Humboldt, but it was called Humboldt State University. And it's a school in Northern California, very close to Oregon and about 12 hours away north from San Francisco. And I worked for one of the TRIO programs, which helped students that were first generation, low income, and even foster youth to attend college. I worked with students between 6th to 12th grade in that area. And I was up there about 6 years. And then from there, I worked at Oregon State University, the Beavers. And there I was in charge of the Centro Cultural Cesar Chavez Center, which served primarily Latino, Latina, and Latinx students. And I worked with other student populations and the other cultural centers. And I was there for 2 years. And then when I was applying for jobs, applied to many jobs in a 3-year span. I applied twice for this position. So luckily it opened up, and now I'm here. And then tomorrow will be 5 months, or today, I think it's 5 months that I've been here at Kansas State University. So, the weather's it's not that bad, I don't want to say global warming's a good thing, but yeah, it's helped out. And our center and my role is we work in our department, and one of the main, I consider the center is the wing of the body of our department, and the body is Project Impact. And Project Impact is programs that are summer bridge programs for students within College of Engineering, Architecture, Business, and Agriculture. And we're able to bring students in the summer and help them get them prepared for here to attending K-State, and obviously letting them know about the opportunities to get involved, and also connecting them with our diversity contact people within these colleges. And then also throughout the year, our department hosts various events such as MLK Week, the BSU Leadership Conference, where high school students, Black high school students from here, the state of Kansas, attend. It was on Tuesday, and it was virtual because COVID. But these are some of the things that we do throughout the year, and obviously on a weekly or annual or monthly basis. So in preparation for this presentation, and this is coming from my perspective, I don't know who was going to join, and people want to talk to me. When you see me on campus, feel free to come by my office, feel free to do that. So, and I pulled some of this material from different sources, some from human resources, for example, handbooks or other universities. And for me, when talking about diversity, there's different aspects to it and models. And for me, that graphic, I think, is one that captures the different forms of identity, or people, how they identify in our society today. And in defining diversity, for me, it's being able to have these people who come from these different groups and be able to participate or be represented in different forms, and in particular in the decision-making and things that will affect them, or not only short-term, but also long-term. And in particular here at campus, for example, I try to make it for people, if students, it's something going to affect students, to have that communication with their student groups. And in discussing about diversity, equity, and inclusion, at least my intention and what I try to always address in talking about it, or even moving forward, is being able to use people's ideas, talents, and knowledge to help us solve the problems, those from the past and those currently, from issues of racism, economics, sexism, and obviously with the most recent one now with COVID, and just how we can better support people. And so in my presentation, I'll be focusing on one or two of these main forms of aspects of diversity. So this graphic here is from the 2020 census, and it shows here within our country the various demographics and how things have changed due to immigration, population growth, and just how people have shifted throughout since the previous census. And you'll see usually the coastal cities, major American cities, are the ones that are probably considered the most diverse where they live because of economic opportunities and various other factors. And this is an article, or this graphic is from an article from the Pew Research. And I think, I think immigration is always a contentious topic and issue for various people. And obviously political parties use that to either gain votes and say how they're going to solve the policy or work with governments in other countries. And I think I found it even interesting because some of these I thought they were, I knew, but for some of them, for example, in the Middle East, you'll see the Gulf countries, they have a higher representation from workers who come from like Nepal, Southeast Asia. But here you'll see how globalization and various conflicts, economic reasons of people, why they have to move to different places throughout the world. And in talking about diversity in the workforce, I think one of the things that I found and I've learned more as working in higher ed, and how either it's portrayed in the media or discussed at times through various news networks, is in the positions where there's greater economic influence on our society. I was able to find this article from the Wall Street Journal, which is from, I believe, 2020. And it shows the representation of different positions and the levels within the companies of finance and insurance. And it's interesting seeing the pattern here where the senior managers, you can see which group dominates the most. And as you go to the mid-level professionals and entry level, it dwindles, but the top is still dominated by a majority group. And from Fortune magazine, in discussing the top 500 and top 20 companies in our country, which it didn't mention, from what I remember, about retention, how long the people stay, but it did talk about diversity and inclusion. And these are the top 20 companies that, in terms of diversity, and some of them you're probably very familiar with, but I found it very interesting. A lot of tech companies, banking. So if any of you want to go into those fields, you can see where my companies, how well they're doing too. And you can look at those demographics. The one that really surprised me, I'll be honest with you, was Gap, because I know it's popular when I was, in college, but yeah, so I'm happy to see them. They're still around, So my background is in international relations, and the reason I went to grad school was to better understand the causes of war and just human nature in general. And part of the reason too for that was that when my family left Central America, we left as other countries. There was a civil war going on in their country. And during the Cold War, even though I was born at the time when it was close to ending, one of the greatest things, that came out of the Cold War and that fear that people always lived was the fear of a nuclear war. And so through my international relations courses that I took and philosophy classes and others, obviously history, I think some of those reasons why, for me and some of the authors I've read, and understanding why states go to war, and part of it's based on the views of human nature, is that as human beings, we're driven by certain factors. And I've seen this not in any way that I'm held pessimistic views or nihilistic views of human nature, but we're driven by things such as self-interest, how things will benefit us the pursuit of power, and obviously being able to obtain wealth. And I think in the drive for those things, I think some of the things that happen with people is that, and leaders in particular at times, is that people become corrupt, and you see the rise of authoritarian governments in history, and also lastly, you see the different civil wars arise, but also wars being waged for, let's say, to benefit maybe certain leaders, and that's being used. And I'm talking about this from my background studying how when the US government, and obviously the Soviet Union at the time, being involved in the Eastern Bloc, it was to the benefit for their certain companies and our government. So the overthrow of governments through the CIA. So those are, and you can take classes on this. It was kind of hard to, but I just wanted to mention that. So and in talking about this, I felt that the ways that we can overcome this, and in the same way that war is, I think, one of the most common patterns in history, but there's a lot you can learn from it. And I found this in coming up with this presentation, a former Navy SEAL, he's been on a podcast he has his own podcast, but he's been on the podcast of another person that I follow. And I'll let him talk about some of the things, how you can navigate this or in working with people.
When I say that relationships are the most important thing in getting things done, when I look back at my career in the Navy and the SEAL teams, just about every single thing that I ever did was through relationships. So the amount of times that I looked at one of my subordinates and said, no, you will do what I'm saying because I'm in charge, I don't think I actually honestly ever said that one single time. I think it was always, hey, this is what we got to get done. How do you think we should do it? Do you think this is smart? And it was all based on relationships and up the chain of command too. There was never a time that one of my bosses said, hey, Jocko, shut up and you do what I told you to do. There was never a time that one of my bosses said that to me. There was, if I had a question, if I pushed back, they gave me legitimate answers. If they didn't have good answers, then they would modulate or change what it is that they were telling me to do. So this idea of having relationships up and down the chain of command, and there's a word that people bring up a lot, and I think they're pretty interchangeable, and it's relationships and trust, right? Trust is built on relationships. Relationships are built on trust. If you don't trust me, we don't really have a relationship. The more deeply you trust me, the better relationship we have. So how do I build trust with you? So if you're above me in the chain of command, well, this is one of those answers that's so obvious, it's crazy, but people actually fail to do this, which is if you ask me to do something as my boss, I do it, and I do it well, and I do it consistently, and I go above and beyond what you ask. And if you want me to deliver this project by this date, I deliver it earlier, and I deliver it to the best of my ability above and beyond what you expected. And you say, oh, wow, when I ask Jocko to do something, he actually does it. And that's where it starts. It starts with that right there, with me performing, me offering advice, me taking what you asked me to do and doing it. That's the number one thing. If we flip those roles, and now I'm in charge of you, how do I build trust with you? Well, what I do is I give you a project. And instead of me giving you a project and then saying, hey, here's how I want you to do this, and here's how I want you to do the next part, instead I say, hey, here's a project. Let me know how you want to do it. And then you go figure out how you want to get done. And I don't micromanage you, and I don't ask you a million questions about and tell you, no, don't do it like that, do it like this. I let you do it. And what does that tell you? That tells you that I trust you. I trust you. And when I trust you, you start to trust me. And by the way, if something goes wrong, instead of me jumping down your throat and hanging you out to dry and making you an example in front of everyone, I say, hey, let's figure out what went wrong. Did I not support you well enough? Did I not give you what you needed? And so you realize, oh, he's not going to hang me out to dry. He's going to give me the support. He's going to try and teach me if something goes wrong instead of try and drop the hammer on me. And in order to do this properly, of course, let's say you just started working for me. The first thing I would hand you wouldn't be a massively strategic, important project and say, hey, here's a multi-million-dollar project. You take and run with it. I'll be over here. I trust you. You make it happen because I don't know you. How can I trust you if I don't know you? So I'm going to give you a smaller project. I'm going to give you something little to start on, and then you do that well, boom. Now I'm going to give you something bigger, and we continue to go in that direction until pretty much we get to a point where all I really have to tell you is, hey, this is the vision. This is what we're trying to make happen. Run with it. If you need to pass this barrier of whatever kind, let me know so I can let everyone else know. But it's on you.
Oops. So I know in my experience, and you can talk to others like Sarah, but like working in higher ed, even though he's worked in a completely different area, human nature is pretty the same. People act the same in similar settings. And that video clip is actually from a larger discussion. I think it's a 52-minute video, but this person had taken 14 minutes of that, and then I edited it for this presentation. So if you look it up, you can find it. And working and being part of a student organizations, I think some of the ways in which you can, on a practical level, exercise some of the things that will help not only you, but your organizations and obviously our campus community is to create a welcoming environment, is being kind to people, or the golden rule is one, I think a simple one. I think most people, or I would say most people are familiar, treat others as you want to be treated. And then with that also respect. I think in college and is one of the best places I feel that, and obviously working in college too, but at least my approach is if I have a disagreement with someone is to focus on what that topic is and not belittle someone or, make the attack personal on them and trying to address that issue too. And another key thing help you is communication. Obviously, social media, texting, email, we have to use, but I think in person and over the phone is sometimes the best. And I also say that because that's something that's told some of our newer generations don't feel more comfortable, for example, sending a text. I mean, I do text, but like if you can talk to someone in person, like especially for a problem or coming up with a new solution, definitely do that way. And then being part of student orgs, I had that experience, and obviously advising some of the ways in which you can build that commonality and getting new members is identifying some of the common factors that you have. It doesn't always have to be something specific, but going out to eat somewhere, going out different movie, things like that. And then with our various organizations here on campus, in particular, let's say the ones I work with, I know they've always putting on great events. And Sarah, since you're on here too, one of the groups I wanted to give the nomination to was the Asian American Student Union. I was able to attend part of the Lunar New Year event. Awesome event. Saw the 4 lines people were performing, like it was awesome. It was great. And obviously Black History Month, but just things that these groups put on, definitely attend. They're free and you can participate in those and get to meet people, which I think is the most important thing. And lastly, I think having mentors plays a very important role. I know for me it has, not only from my references, but just talking about them about issues or just experience that I had through work, the other places even now, and they giving me insight. So building those mentors, having those relationships with your faculty or whoever here or other places, I think is very important. And then being at a college campus, I think one of the advantages or one of the greatest benefits, obviously, is I know what the students in our multicultural student organizations, good number of them, if not most, that I come across are in the STEM majors, which are great, and those are usually the majors that have a higher probability of employment, at least for me when I graduated. So if you can, I would suggest taking classes in history, ethnic studies, philosophy, and also languages or the study of English courses or literature courses. And because I know for myself and other people who've been able to participate in particular studying literature and language, how that broadens your perspectives and better understand people in general. And you can see how the issues we're facing now, this has happened before, and how societies have dealt with it or not dealt with it. And with that, hopefully you have different innovation, different ways you can come up with of coming up with a new event or, solving a problem. And there are tech people I did want to mention, but I felt because of we're talking about languages, literature, I know these are some of the authors that I have read after graduation that really impacted me. And Homer's work was, as a college student, I fell in love a lot with Plato's works, especially his The Republic, his political work. But then when I got the chance to read Homer and his the poems, I could see there would be no Plato if there was Homer. So, and even the things about Homer talks about is war, and this is a lot with the Greek stakes. And another author, Miguel de Cervantes, wrote Don Quixote and other works, and consider the first novel. And you can better understand things. It's an intense story. That's a great story. And lastly, too, and I think not only one of the greatest literary figures, but just his work, what it shares, and he addresses various race, economics, gender. Covers a whole gamut. It's William Shakespeare. In college, actually, I didn't read William Shakespeare. This has happened more, say, within the last 5 years. But having the prior study of Greek philosophy and literature, I think that has really helped me to better understand some of his works of Shakespeare, and I would highly recommend it. And obviously, you have tech figures now like Larry Page and Sergey, people who founded Google, but started sometimes while attending college, or I know one of them was in grad school. Steve Jobs, obviously, attended Reed, dropped out. So I feel the universities, colleges are like the incubator of ideas, and where you can have that time where you can analyze things and discuss things. Any questions? I know there's some things in the chat. I don't know if let me see. All right, no questions. All right, in the chat.
Well, thank you very much, Kevin. I know one of the things you shared was about supporting existing organizations and cultural events and things like that. And so if you're not already aware, you can find these student organizations in Org Central, and you can explore upcoming events being hosted by student organizations in Org Central. So Kevin, that's just something I wanted to mention as a resource for our students here today, is when they're looking to do activities like this, that Org Central is a really great place to do that. And if you have a student organization, make sure you're putting your events in Org Central so that other people can find them and attend them as well. But just thought I would add that anecdote on. But thanks again, Kevin, for speaking with us today.
I got a question. Yeah, I was going to mention too, Instagram. I don't know if other organizations too, but I know for like events, that's where they publish. You following the group's Instagram. How do you manage your time so efficiently? Well, and Sarah, you can attest to it. So there's things I have to So when I have things to deadlines, so big projects, I break it down into like little blocks. Each day I'm gonna try to do something, or at least if I can each day. Within a week, I try to like, okay, I'm gonna get this accomplished. That way I have to do everything at the end, because I know in my role, I have a lot to do. So more than the other two places. So yeah. And then, yeah. How do I remember everyone's names and faces? I take supplements, and I do ask every time, like memory, what is it, omega 369. So I try to, I try to take care of myself, try to live a healthy life. the best that I can. The masks do not help. I'll say that. Like, it's kind of hard. But I know when someone emails me, sometimes I can remember people's faces because there's the picture, that little picture you can click on. So I do forget people sometimes though. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Kevin. Thanks for being here with us today.
Yeah, thank you.
If you do have any additional questions for Kevin, you can still submit those to me. You can put them in the chat. You can message me, Sarah Hyman, in the chat directly, and I can get those to Kevin after today if you want to reach out. Awesome.
Fine.
Thanks again.
Thanks.
All right, everybody. I know we've got our next guest speaker with us in the Zoom room as well. Grace is here. Hi, Grace. And so Grace is going to talk with us a little bit now about how you can take these experiences you're getting as students and use them to help you get the jobs you want after your time here at K-State, right? In your resumes and in your job searches, because we know you're being involved, you're doing things like this. The fact that you're here today is already a great reason to let us know that you're involved and you're getting really valuable experiences. So how do you talk about that in job interviews and things like that? So that's what Grace is going to chat with us about now for the next 20 or 30 minutes. So Grace, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you. I'm just going to get my screen shared really quick. Hopefully everyone's able to see this. Awesome. How does that look for you guys?
Looks great.
Good. Okay, great. Well, yes, like I said, my name's Grace, and I am one of the graduate assistants at the Career Center right now. So today I want to be really beneficial for you all as you're going through these experiences on campus, having this mindset of how it's going to be able to benefit you in the future when you're workshopping this on your resume or maybe in an interview as well. So that's going to lead me into our goals of today. So let me go to that next screen. So the focus of today is really to help increase your perception and value of on-campus experiences, and also help you have confidence in articulating these both on your resume and in an interview. So hopefully you either have some paper in front of you or you're on a computer, because we're going to do some brainstorming activities that hopefully you can keep with you. I'm assuming none of you have an interview tomorrow. So I just want to make sure that you're able to utilize what we go through today in the future as well. All right. So first we are went the wrong direction. All right. So first I wanted to just spend a little bit of time talking about the different skills you're going to gain throughout your time at K-State, either in an organization, even just an event maybe, or your work experience as well. So these different types of skills are going to be hard skills, soft skills, and transferable skills. So hard skills to start with are the type of skills that you can measure, you can demonstrate, they can be learned or enhanced through training. So this could be computer programs and languages for maybe my computer science students, any certifications that you have, CPR training, maybe like Photoshop or any of the Adobe products, anything that you have significant like training or skills with on a program is going to be your hard skills, something you can show. Soft skill, however, is also sometimes referred to as people skills. So these are going to be the personal attributes that are going to come with you as a person. So these just might be time management, conflict resolution, empathy. These skills are something that maybe you don't necessarily have a certificate for, but they help shape you as who you are as both a person and as maybe an employee. So those are going to be your soft skills. And transferable skills are going to be any skill that you can take with you to your job, regardless of what the title is. So this is going to be communication, teamwork, problem solving, anything that you're going to bring with you, regardless of what the job description is asking of you. So just before we get into the activity, kind of wanted to go over those 3 different types of skills. All right. So next we're going to move into this activity for a little bit. So the first objective I have for you is to think through any on-campus experience that has the most meaning to you. I don't want you to think about what you think employers are going to be the most impressed by, or maybe something that took the most of your time. What meant the most to you? What did you really resonate with? What were you passionate about? What did you join because it was something that you really wanted to do throughout your time at K-State? And then your second objective with that is to think through what are those 3 different skills that came during that experience. Maybe I utilized them, or maybe I gained them. Maybe it's something you got because of the experience, not necessarily something that you're expected to have to join the experience. And then your third objective is to think through where is that on your experience timeline. So when did these occur and what tense would be appropriate to discuss them in? And that will be something that we'll go through after I give you some time to brainstorm. So I'm just going to give you a few minutes now to think about what are these experiences for you. And I just have a few questions that I found in our, I'm blurred, but our interview and resume guide through the Career Center that might help kind of jog your memory as you're thinking through what this experience was. So I'm going to give you around 3 to 5 minutes to kind of brainstorm those things. And in the meantime, I'll send you a link to our online version of the resume and interview guide if you're interested in keeping that as a resource throughout your time. All right, so I'm going to be quiet for a few minutes and give you a few minutes to think through those experiences. All right. As we're coming back from that experience, thinking through that, was there anyone who wanted to share an on-campus experience that meant the most to them, either out loud or in the chat? And I also did send that guide too, if you're needing that.
Yeah, I'll share. So I've been a resident assistant in the dorms the past 2 years, and that's been a tremendous experience in many different facets of the role. What specifically did you want?
Yeah, no, that was great. I was just kind of curious where people were at, because I think one thing I wanted to share too, as we're thinking through this, is it's really easy to think about work experiences, but also remembering that the things we do on campus too, even that are not paid, are still going to bring value to us as we move forward. But thank you for sharing that. Being an RA, I bet, has many challenges and many rewards too. So thank you for sharing that, Nolan. Awesome. So now that we did that brainstorming, I bet you're thinking, Grace, how do I put this on my resume? So there's going to be 3 kind of phases that I want you to think through as you're taking this on-campus experience and trying to put it on a resume. So maybe some of you have your dream job in mind, somewhere where you're applying to, and this is going to be really good to think through in phase 1. So if you have somewhere you're hoping to work for, my main suggestion for you is to utilize their job description. Something you're going to find as you're looking through that job description is keywords that they're repeating a lot. And don't be afraid to kind of look at those keywords. Think about a time where you utilized that skill that they're highlighting often, or maybe gained it, and really highlight that on your resume. If you're noticing that it's important to them, make sure to highlight that it's something that you're bringing with you. So if you don't have a place in mind, then we're going to move into phase 2 and 3. So this is going to be making sure that the desired skill you have identified is incorporated in an action statement. And an action statement is going to be demonstrating how you have that skill or gained that skill, rather than just stating it. So I took a screenshot from the guide that I sent you. So this is going to be in that guide that I sent you as a link. We also have physical copies at the Career Center. If you're wanting to stop by, we'd be more than happy to give you one. But this is an example I thought might be great to look through. So this student highlighted their experience at the Bank of the Flint Hills in Manhattan, Kansas. And it looks like there is experience all the way from 2016 to currently. And those roles shifted in two different ways. So at first we were an agricultural loans department intern and then transitioned into a customer service representative. So starting your sentence with an action verb can help to describe the skill that you're bringing with you. And this is when I wanted to bring back that tense conversation. So based off of the tenses that the student used, we can tell which position they're in now and which they were in past. So some of those action verbs for their past role were understood, composed, aided, assisted. And those are going to be really great ways to start off your bullet points, keeping in mind that they don't need to be full sentences. We really want to highlight off the bat what that skill is you're trying to bring with you. So those are all past tense action verbs. And then moving into the role they're in now, accurately, create, complete, communicate. Those are all really strong action verbs that help to pull together and demonstrate what those skills are that the student is bringing with them from this experience. And again, referring back to that resume and interview guide, there is full 2 pages, pages 9 and 10, full of action verbs that are also broken down into categories based off of leadership, management, communication, that will really help you to create that perfect sentence to capture the skills that you're bringing with you. At this point, were there any questions on the resume process, how to word it, or the best way to categorize that?
I actually had a quick question. So with
Yeah.
the subheadings, I noticed that it was the earlier one and then the later one. Should you do it that way if you have multiple positions within one employment place? So go older than newer instead of the other way?
Yeah, that's a great question because as you might know, typically on a resume, we keep our experiences in reverse chronological order with what we're doing today on top with what we did yesterday following. So for this example, the student decided to keep that same transition for the overall experiences at the different places of employment, but found it would be most beneficial to go in the order that they transitioned. And this can help show that you gained new responsibilities and also were maybe given a promotion or a raise. So yeah, great question. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it. Just thinking through what you're really wanting to highlight would be the best thing to keep in mind. Thanks for asking that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. So from here, we're going to think about how we could talk about this in an interview, because how we know we write stuff on our resume isn't necessarily how we're going to verbalize it out loud in an interview. So I pulled a question that is typically asked in an interview. Describe a time you were faced with a stressful situation that demonstrated your coping skills. And then listed out on the right-hand side, the best way we're going to try to answer this in an interview. So that would be thinking through situation, the task, the action, the result, and what you learned as a result of that. So one that comes to mind for me that I just wanted to share is actually during my time being in Greek life. I was the new member coordinator during COVID. So part of that situation was we were needing to host initiation for our new members, but in smaller groups to diminish the risk of COVID spreading. So that was our situation. And the task was to get everyone through on the same day in smaller groups. So the action we took was aligning the women going through in smaller groups based off of their last name and giving each of them an individualized schedule so they were able to have a memorable experience while also feeling safe and healthy. And as a result of that, the schedule that my partner and I created were actually utilized in following years, given that we found a pretty efficient way to keep the day not as stressful, but still memorable and healthy. And even though maybe the things I learned from this experience, I hope to never have to reciprocate again, learning that being flexible and having great communication skills during uncertain times is going to be the best way to get through these. So again, I just want to give you a few minutes to think about the situation maybe that aligns with your most memorable on-campus experience that we thought of before. And you don't necessarily have to think through all of the STAR-L answers, but maybe just thinking about an S or T that would be great in an interview is what I'm kind of hoping this time will be most beneficial for you now. So if Nolan, maybe you have an experience from being an RA that has a situation that you want to share with us, that'd be great. If not, no worries. But again, just want to give you a few minutes to think through what that situation might be in relation to your most memorable on-campus experience. All right, so I'm just going to give you about 2 minutes to think through that. All right, and if there's anyone with a really good situation they thought of from their memorable experience, I'd love to hear it if you would like to share or in the chat.
Yeah, I can go. Hey Grace, this is Dawson here.
Hi, Dawson.
I have a situation from when I was president of my fraternity, and we were trying to move back into our newly renovated house. And so the situation was, fall of 2020, we were trying to get everybody back in with, doing it safely, and we didn't know exactly how we were gonna move everybody in with it, having masks and Germ-X and taking temperatures and making sure. So that was kind of like the task, was all the details that we had to go through to figure out how to get 64 guys into the house safely, and then steps we took to kind of prevent people from trying to hang out with each other maskless in the house. We just made a rule of anybody in the hallways, if you're going to be around each other, just wear your mask. And as an outcome, we were able to mitigate an outbreak for about 3 to 4 weeks until eventually, guys were hanging out outside the house, and they brought it back in, and that kind of happened in a lot of different houses. So I don't know, I learned a lot from that experience of you can only do so much, but if you take the right steps, then you can at least mitigate the outbreak from happening right off the bat and making parents sick. So thankfully we were able to get all the parents in and out safely with them moving all their students in. So that's just kind of an example I thought of when we were doing this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. That was great. Definitely a lot of situations that came out of our COVID experience too.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So I know this day was pretty quick. Hopefully you've been learning a lot, but I wanted to share some other resources for you to utilize after today and through the rest of your time at K-State. So first thing I wanted to share is please stop by the Career Center, and you can definitely set up appointments through Handshake for a range of different options. Right now, what I'm doing is meeting with students on Zoom for about 10 minutes. It's called a 10-minute tune-up. You can bring your resume or cover letter with you, and I would be more than happy to go over any questions you have about that. We also have drop-in studio appointments, which our students are able to meet with you whenever it works best for you to go over your resume, or also maybe if you're wanting to switch your major or not for sure what career you're wanting to apply to, we'd love to walk you through that. And we also have college liaisons for each of our colleges at the Career Center that are really knowledgeable in all of the different employers for each of those areas. So that's just something I wanted to highlight. Another thing that I wanted to make sure I mentioned is that the business building also has great resources for our business students too. So there might be major area of study specific utilizations that you can have throughout your time at K-State too. Just wanted to also highlight on the right side, these are all of the career meetups that the Career Center is hosting this semester. So if you, we did just have the ag industry career meetup, but coming up, we have an engineering career fair, hospitality, media and communication, education, business, health. So lots of different employers coming to campus. And we'd love to help you have great conversations with them about those on-campus experiences that you've been having. And then the last thing is just open time for questions. I did share these slides with Sarah, so all of these are hyperlinked in those slides if you are wanting to look through any of the resources that I used today to build this presentation. Would definitely encourage you to do that. But yes, no, I'm just open for any questions anyone might have. Would love to answer them.
Well, if there are no questions for Grace right now, I do just want to say, Grace, thanks so much for being here with us today and for taking your time to help us learn more about writing our resume better and how to think through some of our experiences and put that into answering interview questions, because I think that's something, again, that's going to be helpful for all of you, because you do all have really great experiences you can speak to that include those things like Grace was saying, transferable skills, hard skills, soft skills, people skills, all of that. So thanks again, Grace, for chatting with us. And like she said, I do have her slides, so I will be sending that out to all of you afterwards as well. All right, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you again. I just want to ask everybody, I know we've been here for an hour. We've just got a half hour left. If you all just want to, take a deep breath, roll back the shoulders, relax. I know sitting in front of a computer screen, I was like this for a long time already. I can feel it. Stretch if you need to. And help me get ready here for our next presenter. We have Emily here joining us from the K-State Strengths Program. And Emily's going to chat with us about utilizing strengths to make stronger, better teams. So Emily, I will turn it over to you.
Awesome. Hey guys, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drop in the chat the link to our single sign-on portal, just in case you need a refresh of what your top 5 are. Maybe it's been a while since you've taken the assessment. This link will take you to your strengths. If you've taken the assessment, it will pop those up from before. If you haven't taken the assessment, that will link you there as well. As there's going to be some resources in those areas that I'll talk through today. So that would be a great place for you to access those as well. But I know you guys have been talking for a while, so I'm just going to jump right in and share with you today. Like Sarah said, my name's Emily Woolard. I'm the Strengths Graduate Assistant here at K-State. So anything and everything strengths kind of falls under my umbrella. But one of my favorite things I get to do is just be here talking to people like you. So thank you for having me today. Thinking about strengths, I'm just going to dive right in. The first thing I want you to know about your strengths is that strengths is not prescriptive. So what I mean by that is there's not one set of 5 that are going to cause you to be successful in whatever it is that you're doing, right? If you're the president of your organization, or if you're the engagement chair, there's not a set of strengths that says that, oh, this is going to be the perfect situation for them. This is going to be the perfect role for them. As well as strengths are neutral. So your top 5 are not better or worse than any of the rest of them, but both of these concepts play into leveraging your strengths and how you utilize them to be successful. And so a little background on strengths. The strengths philosophy is rooted in positive psychology. So basically what I mean by that is there was a man named Don Clifton. He was in the library at UNL doing some research on psychology, pulling books off the shelves, and every book that he saw was about what was wrong with society, what was wrong with people. And he's like, wow, that's a bummer. Like, I think that Don probably had the strength of positivity. He's like, wow, I want to know what's right with people. I want to know what they're doing well, not what they're bad at, right? And so that's what strengths was rooted in. That's where the strengths concept came from, is what people are doing right versus wrong. And so when we think about strengths, those top 5 strengths that you have are the things that you are talented in. And so when I think about talent, I think of your natural way of thinking, feeling, or behaving, the way you just show up naturally core to who you are. However, the thing about strengths is if you don't multiply that talent by investment or time spent practicing, time spent developing your strengths, they're never going to become that strength or that near perfect performance again and again and again. And so when I think about athletes, right, even the most talented, just good athletes, right, like the people that have all the talent in the world still have to go to practice, still have to go lift weights, and still have to work as a team, right? People that are scholars, super, super smart individuals, very intelligent, but they still study. They still do research in their areas. And so same thing with your strengths, same thing with your talents. Investing in them is going to lead them to be your strengths. And so this is what you're doing right now, is investing in your strengths. So you can thank Sarah for giving you that time to invest in them. And so you might be wondering, like, what does that mean for my organizations? What does that mean for the teams that I work on, the people that I surround myself with? The other thing about strengths is that strengths philosophy does not support well-rounded individuals, but it does support building well-balanced teams. And so what I mean by that, an example for me, is I have the strengths of communication, woo, developer, empathy, and positivity. So I have significant gaps, right? I don't have any strengths in executing and strategic thinking. So I have to think about who can I partner with to be successful. I'm very strong in relationship building. That's my natural instinct. But like I said, there's gaps. And so I'm going to encourage you to real quick look through, and I can get rid of my circles so you can see better. Look through, see if you can find the areas where you have the highest talent. Give me like a thumbs up on the screen when you see your area of high talent. I know you're ready. Cool. Awesome. Almost there. Cool. So hold those in your brain. I'm going to go to the next slide and kind of talk you through what each of the domains mean. And I have to go back through here really quick. Okay, so first of all, executing. Those are the individuals that like to make things happen. And the example I normally give is executors are those people that on their list, they might not have everything that they're doing in the day, but they'll go back in and write the things that they've already done down. So then they can go back and check it off, right? Like, oh, I've just put on my shoes. I'm going to write it down. I'll put on my shoes, check it off the list, and like, I'm good to go, right? I accomplished something for the day. Those are executors. They like to get things done. They like to accomplish something. They take those ideas and make it a reality. Influencing. I like to think of those as the communicators. They are effective in assisting teams to reach a broader audience. So what that means is they take those ideas and they put them into the light. They like to spread them, give them voice, and speak up and give that organization exposure. Relationship builders, that's the glue of the organization. When I think about relationship building, I think of one of my colleagues, Mary Kay Sievers over in Lead Studies. She is the biggest relationship builder I know. When I first started at Lead Studies last summer, there'd be times where I'd go to the bathroom, right? And I'm sitting there doing my thing. Mary Kay walks in, she's like, oh, hey, how's it going? What's going on? Who's in here today? I'm like, oh, it's Emily. Like, hi. And it's like, Emily, it's cool. We all talk in the bathroom. Like, we're all just gonna, we're gonna build that relationship in here, right? Because it doesn't matter to Mary Kay where it is. She just wants to make connections with people and build those relationships. She's like, yeah, we all do that, right? I've been in the bathroom multiple times with multiple other colleagues and nobody else talks to each other, but Mary Kay thinks that we do because she's the relationship builder. She's the one initiating that. So that's kind of what I think about when I think about relationship builders. And then finally, strategic thinkers. Those are the people that think 5, 10, 15 years in the future. And they take information and put it towards the dreams of what could be. They also analyze and organize information and can make sound decisions based upon that information that they're synthesizing. And so thinking about all of those areas, what I'm going to ask you to think through, what do you bring to a team? Thinking about what area you fall in, what are those strengths that you bring into your student organizations, that you bring into your relationships, that you can utilize to make progress, but also what gaps are present. So like I mentioned that I don't have any strengths in strategic thinking and executing. And this can be a downfall to me with my leadership or with my decision making. An example I'll share is in the past, I have been involved in hiring process. And being a strong relationship builder, every person I talk to, even though it's for 20 minutes, I'm like, oh my goodness, I love this person. Like, I want to be their friend. I want to involve them in my life. I want to hire them so that they can be on my team because they're just really cool. However, when I go to my HR manager and say, hey, I want to hire all the people I talk to, she goes, whoa, Emily, like, we don't have the dollars and cents for that, because she has strength in executing. And she's thinking through like, hey, that doesn't actually work out. Let's rethink that. So I need those people to kind of stop me and say, hey, let's think through it in a different way. So what I'm going to ask you to do, and I think I need to stop sharing my screen, and Sarah, I'm going to need your help. I'm going to send you guys to breakout rooms, and I want you to talk through those 2 questions. Normally what I do if we were in a room together is I'd send the executors to one room or one side, the strategic thinkers, the relationship builders, the influencers, all to their corners. That's going to be a little tricky with Zoom. But I'm just going to send you out, and I want you to talk about those 2 questions. What do you bring to team because of your talents, and what gaps might be present? What do you need from team? So we'll send you for the next like 2 or 3 minutes to talk about that. Hey, hopefully that was enough time for you guys to kind of get a chance to discuss. I'd love some shout outs. Let's start with maybe what do you bring with the team? If you could share what area you're in, the domain, as well as what do you bring to a team?
So my top 2 kind of domains are strategic thinking and executing. And those are definitely where most of my strengths lie. And so what I bring to a team is often organization and kind of stuff like that, management of like resources and things like that. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Who else would like to share?
I can go. My top one is also executing. So I think, like you mentioned before, I'm definitely a person that likes to get things done and just be able to cross things off of that list, like you said. So I'd say that's the biggest area I have my strengths in.
Thank you. Anyone else for what you bring to a team?
I can go next. So my top one is communication. So we were I was with Kate in the same breakout room, and then she said she started with and was like, okay, we can make a perfect team because I have a 0 in the first list. So I'm good at communicating with people. I didn't even realize that, but kind of influence people like better. And I kind of maybe have some like issue to get things done like immediately. Just yeah, that's what I bring to team.
That's awesome, thank you. And yeah, I heard that too, Kate. I was like, oh, we could be perfect partners because you have what I lack. That's awesome. Let's talk about that other piece, right? What gaps are present? Ping Ping kind of just like spoke to it, but what parts or what gaps are present within your strengths?
I can speak to that. I definitely see a lot of, I like to people please, and so I can sometimes be difficult to try to choose one side or the other and, make a difficult decision. And so like kind of referencing back to like my decision about moving into the house and our fraternity and like mask mandates, it was a tough decision to try to please both sides and say, oh, no, we should have masks or we shouldn't have masks. So, like, just at least wear them in the hallways. And I know you're going to hang out outside of the, the house anyway. So like, it was definitely like one side to the other. And, I came in with it with the, you need to wear your mask and you need to keep it on. But then once we had our outbreak and then, things started to open up and guys were living with each other for 2-3 months, then it became more lax and we started to understand like, okay, we've all spent time with each other. So we'll loosen things up now. So yeah, that's how that kind of played out.
Cool. Thanks, Dawson. Do you happen to have the strength of harmony?
I do, and positivity as well. So
yeah, I heard
even
it,
though
right?
It was very hard, challenge to go through, but I learned a lot from it, and I was an optimist about it instead of being nihilistic.
Yeah, for sure. And Dawson, I heard you say like, oh, there was just 2 sides, and like they both had differing opinions, and I wanted to like make sure that they were both pleased, right? And I was like, ooh, strength of harmony. That's fun. Awesome. Who else? Thanks, Dawson. let's take one more.
I can, I can give my input. Kind of like what Dawson was saying, I also have harmony, and it can be difficult for me to choose one side or the other. And that especially, I think, manifests, I don't have any, and I forget the specific category name, but it's the one where you like kind of lead the group or like take charge. So that's kind of a struggle for me sometimes if I'm placed in that role. I can do it, but it's not my favorite thing to do because it usually means that you're kind of going with one idea over the other. And I'm like, I wish I could do both. That's just not feasible sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. And so that's where partnerships come in, guys. So we aren't going to be a well-rounded individual utilizing the strengths philosophy. We're just not. But we can make partnerships. We can find people in our organizations to kind of balance us out and create those partnerships that are going to help us be successful, right? So in Nolan's situation, he can find somebody that's going to help him make a quicker decision like an activator or somebody that has a strength to get things done, right? The other thing I want to make sure I impress upon you is just because you don't have strengths in executing doesn't mean that you're incapable of making decisions or incapable of leading, right? Same thing, like just because you're in strategic thinking doesn't mean like you can't make friends, right? But it's just wherever you naturally kind of fall or your natural instinct where that kind of leads you. And so continuing on from there, thinking about your student organizations, those groups that you're working with, a good place to start to have a strengths conversation is what we call a strengths team grid. And so I have one, this is one that I put together for an organization I did another presentation with, so I kind of hid their names. But basically what you do is over there in that red box, you'd write down on each line like the name of people in the organization. So you'd have Marissa, you'd have Nolan, you'd have Cade. And then utilizing their top 5 strengths in order, you can put them in the categories that they go in. You can kind of see across the board where you have talent, where you might have gaps, and who you can go to when things get tough, right? Or when you need a different perspective. And so I really like the way that this organization's kind of fell, because if we look at this team grid, they're pretty well balanced. They have everybody, there's categories with somebody in all of them. There are only, I think, 4 different strengths that were not represented, which when you think about 34 strengths, that's not bad at all. And so when you think about how do I start conversations about strengths with the people I'm working with, the team grid's a perfect place to start. And so I've sent a blank copy of this to Sarah for your reference, but I also want to let you know about ksu.gallup.com. So I dropped that link in the chat earlier. I'm going to pull it up on my screen and show it to you because I think that there's a lot of incredible resources that you can use to talk about strength within your organizations that are just located right here centrally. So when you go to that screen, it's going to pop up with your test results if you've taken the test. If you haven't, then you can go in and take it, and then it will show you the screen. So we can see my top 5 strengths. And then right over here on the right, brief Clifton strength theme descriptions. So that will give you a deeper look into what each strength means. The strength team grid is there. So if you lose what Sarah sends you eventually, or just need to know where to go back and find it, it's right there. How students can use their Clifton strengths to succeed, that's a great read. Learn more about the domains. Then you can click more resources, and it will take you to all this different stuff, right? There's a book that you can read if you're really passionate about strengths. This tells you a deeper look into all the strengths. Again, there's the theme reference card, the 4 domains. I like the curriculum activities section. So let's say you're like planning some programming for your organization. There's all these different activities that are strengths centered that you can utilize. One that I really like is the strengths scavenger hunt. So essentially you just have this document, and I can open it up for you. But you go through, you talk to different people in your organization, and you kind of ask them, what strengths do you have? How do you see them showing up in your life? What's the benefit of the strength? How do you utilize it in your Greek life organization, in your different organization that you're working with? And then you can kind of learn more about those people in your groups. So you can leverage strengths in a different way. And so that's just the general overview of the website there, but I would direct that to anyone to learn more. I also want to make sure I share with you some other strengths I'm losing my words now. Some other strengths opportunities we have for you here on campus, such as strengths peer coaching. So this is a free resource for students. We have this semester 5 undergraduate students that are strengths peer coaches. So essentially you can sit down with them for a 45-minute session. We've talked like overview of strengths today, but if you want to know specifically more about your 5, that's what our peer coaches are trained to do. So they can coach you towards insight, like, hey, I just want to learn more about my strengths and how I use them. They can coach you towards the challenge. So let's say you're dealing with that move-in situation that Dawson explained, and he's like, I just don't know what to do. They can utilize your strengths to kind of attack those situations, or they can coach towards well-being. So we use the 6 pillars of well-being. Maybe you just need somebody to talk to about where you're at in life. Our peer coaches can do that. I also would recommend, if you're somebody that has some influence in your organization and you wanted to have your colleagues work with this, or your peers, take a picture of this and send it to them, and they can sign up for a session as well. It's free to all students. Another session, maybe you enjoyed what we were saying. You liked the 4 corners or the 4 domains activity. You liked having a conversation about strengths, but you're not sure if you want to lead that on your own. This QR code will send you to a place that you can work with me and ask me to come do this for your group. I'd be happy to just come in and lead a strengths conversation, walk you through the team grid. Those places on the right are the different things that we can talk about. Or as you notice, there's another section. If there's something else you wanted to aim strengths towards, I'd be happy to come work with your organization. And so that brings me to the end. It's not letting me go now. There we go. Of our time. I'll open it up for questions. Before I do, that's my email. And then our website is just K-State Strengths in Google, or you can utilize this link. And it will also get you connected to that peer coaching information and the workshop information. With that, what questions do you have today? Okay, if not, I'm dropping my email in the chat. Sarah will send you the information. You have the link. And yeah, I appreciate your guys' time.
Yeah, thanks again, Emily, for being here. I always, even though I've seen that team grid before, every time I'm like, oh, that is such a good tool. I need to get that and sit down with like even my friends and see how our strengths compare to each other. But definitely organizations and your jobs, you know, all of that. I can see how helpful that would be. So thanks again for coming and chatting with us.
Absolutely. Great to see you all.
Yeah. Okay.
Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye, Emily. Okay, everyone, before we wrap up today here, I have invited Jana Thomas to come chat with us just a little bit about some of the upcoming events happening this week for K-State Social Media Week, because there are a lot of events that I think you will find relevant as leaders on campus, and especially with your, again, with organizations or just information to take with you, you know, in your future career. So Jana, do you want to tell us a little bit about K-State Social Media Week?
Sure. And yeah, I won't take the full 10 minutes. I just want to chat with you. It's really nice to see you and talk to you all here real quick on a Saturday. Kudos to you all for taking time out of your weekend for something like this. This is a pretty great event. So, and Strengths is pretty fantastic too. So I hope you all will take advantage of that program. So I'm just going to share my screen. There is an event happening next week, like Sarah said, K-State Social Media Week. And this is the first year for this campus-wide event. And I hope that you all will take advantage of this opportunity. There's really something for everyone this week. And, you know, whatever major you're in, whatever career program you want to go into, or career field you want to go into after you graduate from K-State, you're going to touch social media in some way, shape, or form, okay? You all are social media users. You use social media every single day, many times per day. And so K-State Social Media Week is just a great way to help you understand how to use social media in maybe more of a different way than you currently do, give you access to some tools to help you explore new ideas, connect with people, figure out maybe you want to work in social media as a career. I mean, this is one of the fastest growing jobs today is working in social media. I teach a number of social media courses here at the university. I've worked in social media for over 11 years. I have about 20 years of marketing and communications experience. So I came back here to the university just to teach this type of stuff to students. So I hope you'll join us for one or all of the events this week. I'm going to be at every single one. And I love this kind of stuff. I eat, breathe, and sleep social media. So I hope you guys will join us. But if you go to the website, and I'll put it in the chat here in a second, but it's just, k-state.edu/social media week. And so you'll see here, there's so many different topics, and this is just the first year. I'm super excited. We've been talking with TikTok about maybe coming next year. We're really hoping that comes. We have someone from TikTok coming this year, but I'd love for them to headline next year. But you see, we have a content creator studio where you can come and learn about all the different ways to use, create content for social media, whether you're doing it personally, maybe you have a skill or a hobby or some expertise you want to share on social media. Learn how to take a better photograph, how to create video, how to have good audio and lighting. What are some of the different tools and techniques you can use to share good, effective content on social media? We're going to explore some careers in social media. There's a brand new social media management certificate launching here at K-State this summer. So one of the workshops this week, you can learn a little bit more about that certificate. We've got some, discussions about political polarization on social media. I mean, that's a pretty big hot button topic in society right now. We're so polarized. You're either on one end of a topic or the other. And there's a social media research foundation out there that's developing tools to identify these types of polarizing conversations and how do we help society come together more. So that's going to be a really interesting event. We've got a session on Wednesday night. We're bringing in an Adobe ambassador. He is a fourth-year med student. He has used social media to launch his career professionally, and he's going to talk about some of the things that he's done to have a really strong social media presence. So that's going to be really fantastic. We have a panel discussion with some athletes, including Deuce Vaughn from K-State football. We have Tim Fitzgerald with GoPowerCat.com, and they're going to talk about how social media has impacted college athletes and sports in general. So there's so much. Again, there's something for everyone. So as you scroll down the page, you can click the arrow and get a little bit of a detail about each of the events, including the time and the location. But here's that session on the social media management certificate. There's just something in here really for everybody. So I hope you all will take this opportunity. But again, I just wanted to highlight, as you all are leaders across campus, I really encourage you to bring your teams, your groups to this Wednesday evening event called Click Talk, the power of social media. The first 30 minutes, the Career Center is doing a fantastic presentation on using social media in the job search. So if you all are leaders in some facet across campus, what a great professional development opportunity to bring your group or your team to. So the first 30 minutes is the Career Center, and then the next hour is Vincent Fu, who's the Adobe ambassador, and he's going to talk about his experience. He's doing a lot of fun giveaways. It's going to be really fun. So I really encourage you to come to that. But take a look here. I mentioned we've got somebody from TikTok. One of our alums, Cameron Banning, is a brand development lead at TikTok, and he's going to come in and talk about how he got his job. What does he do? Right? It's so cool to think about all the different ways that you can work in this space. You don't have to be a business, marketing, or advertising major to work in social media. It touches all of us. So come in and hear about what he's doing at TikTok and hear about the types of jobs that they have. He's really cool, really fun. I love Cameron, and I think you guys would have a good time hearing him as well. So take a look, let your teams know. You can click the link here to register for events through Org Central. So you all are probably pretty familiar how to do that, but just log in using your student account and register for the individual events that you'd like to go to. The last thing I just wanted to tell you is that if you attend 2 or more events next week, you have a chance to win a scholarship to take a free class in social media, whether it's social media strategy, content development. There's a whole host of classes you can take using that scholarship. So I encourage you to come in and say hi. Come see me next week. So Sarah, I'll turn it back to you.
Thanks, Jana. Wow, you
Yeah.
do have a lot going on this next week.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun, guys. Don't miss it.
Very
Don't miss it. Be part of our first year. I mean, it's really
That's
cool to
right.
say that you attended the first K-State Social Media Week. That'd be something cool to say.
That's right.
I hope you guys
Awesome.
have a
Well,
good Saturday. Thank you for the invite.
thanks again. Yeah, thanks for coming and chatting with us briefly. I'm going to
You bet.
share my screen now, everyone. I just want to thank you all again for being here today. This, like I said, is part of our Student Org Leadership Summit. It's a series of workshops we're hosting today. So this afternoon here at 1 o'clock in about half an hour is our last workshop of the day on community service. So I'm going to ask Katie, actually, who's been in this call with us, to chat a little bit about that because she is part of the group organizing that session. So Katie, what can you tell us about the community service workshop?
Well, Sarah, thank you for sending it over to me. I am super excited about our workshop. I met with our panelists this morning, and everybody is really excited to have an engaging session about how to have and participate in meaningful community service at K-State, whether that's as an individual or as a service student organization. And we're excited to get that kicked off at 1 p.m.
Awesome. Thanks, Katie. Everyone, I also just put a link in the chat for you to take our survey. If you do plan on going to the community service workshop, you can definitely wait and take the survey after that. But if you're hopping off here now, we do want to definitely capture your feedback on how this presentation went for you today, what impact it had, and what your thoughts are for how we can continue to provide events like this for you all in the future. So we really do value your feedback. Please do complete that survey. Again, the link is in the chat there. We hope we see you at 1 for the community service session. If you are involved in any student organizations on campus, I also want to do a quick shout out. This Thursday at 4 o'clock in the Union is our Student Org Awards ceremony. So we'll have some light refreshments for everyone. Come hear about the awesome things student organizations have been doing throughout the last year, and we'll announce our award recipients for the 2021 awards as well. So we hope you see you on Thursday as well. With that, I'll just say, please take our survey one more time and please consider checking out the 1 o'clock workshop. Otherwise, have a great Saturday. Thanks again so much for being here, and we hope to see you all soon. Go Cats.